So today I am going to discuss about January month anthropology current affairs. Optional for anthropology optional students. Current affairs are very important. Anthropology is a static subject, but if we make it into dynamic, it will become more easy, it will become more flexible to get more marks. For the sake of increasing your marks, every month I am doing current affairs. How to add current affairs to your answers so that the answer will become dynamic. So static subject is made dynamic. So I am concentrating on making your subject more dynamic. So here January month current affairs I am doing, and later on I will be doing February month current affairs as well. So Odisha tribal still suffering from hunger, malnutrition. Mainly two tribal communities, Juang tribal community and Pudi Buyan tribal community. These are the two tribal communities who are particularly vulnerable tribal groups. This particularly vulnerable tribal groups, when compared to other particularly vulnerable tribal groups in Odisha and rest of India and other tribal groups, these people are still suffering with lot of hunger and high magnitude of malnutrition. So this Odisha is famous for more number of PVTGs. 13 PVTGs are present in Odisha. In that 13 PVTGs, 2 PVTGs, one is Juang and Pudi Buyan, are suffering with hunger and poverty. The poor implementation of government welfare programs in the tribal areas of Odisha is affecting the tribes like Juang and Pudi Buyan. Juangs are one of the 13 particularly vulnerable tribal groups out of the total 62 tribes found in Odisha. They speak Juang, a dialect of Munda language group. They usually observe their festivals and marriage ceremony with Changu dance. So prelims point of view, Changu dance is related to what? Means is related to Juang tribe of Odisha. They usually, early marriage is a common practice among Juangs, leading to complications among children born out of young parents. So the child marriages is one problem. Which is more prevalent in Juang tribal community. So apart from child marriages, hunger, malnutrition is one of the major problem which is suffering from this particular tribal communities. Pudi Buyan tribe is a major section of historically famous Buyan tribe. This tribe is majorly found in Bihar, Odisha, West Bengal and Assam. So they are uniformly distributed across these states. It is one of the 13 PVTGs who is suffering from worst form of hunger and malnutrition. They speak local Odia language which is pronounced differently. So the Buyan people also speak the Odia language, but there will be a different dialect. So if there is any question in your UPSC mains with respect to write about PVTGs or write about Odisha tribal communities without mentioning Juang and Pudi Buyan tribal communities, your answer is incomplete. So make sure that the current affair of January mentioning that within the PVTGs, these two Juang and Pudi Buyan tribal communities are more vulnerable and more suffering with hunger and malnutrition. Communities can never claim to be indigenous. So mainly with the issue with Assam. In Assam there are some non-tribal communities who want to claim tribal status. So mainly the belief is that the non-tribal communities who came to Assam for the sake of livelihood, they want to claim the tribal identity in order to get the economic benefits, in order to get the reservation benefits being a ST tribal community. Apart from reservations, they are also going to become the part of tribal areas, Schedule 6 of the Constitution. So in order to acquire that Schedule 6 of the Constitution, the non-tribal communities of Assam are claiming to be STs. Non-tribal communities living in Assam can never claim to be Kilonjia. Kilonjia means in local term it is called as indigenous. Kilonjia means in local term it is called as tribal societies. So the non-tribal communities living in Assam can never claim Kilonjia. Who told this? All Assam Kochari Samaj that represents the earliest ethnic communities inhabiting the state. So a pressure group of Assam, which is Assami Kochari Samaj, is telling that no non-tribal community can claim ST status. So that is Kilonjia. The Kilonjia term is relevant to what? The Kilonjia term is relevant to what? Means the Kilonjia term is relevant to indigenous people. Kochari kings began ruling areas under present-day Assam and beyond 1500 years. But the non-tribals have pushed the tribal history aside despite the United Nations specifying that only the aborigines can be called indigenous. So this is a Kochari king, a kingdom people who are non-tribals, but they push the tribal people who are claiming the tribal status in spite of the tribal who are living in Assam. The Samaj claimed the floral Gamosa. This is called as Gamosa. a representative agent of Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act, which was very vibrantly happened in the month of December in Assam. So they used to have the flag. This is in the flag of a cloth. This is in the form of a towel. This is in the form of a flag which they want to represent as Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act. So a prelims point of view, gamosa represents what? Gamosa represents a towel-like structure. Gamosa represents a towel-like cloth which mainly focuses on, which mainly gives importance on Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act, and which represents indigenous, which represents local identity. The Samaj claimed the floral gamosa, or a cloth towel that has become a symbol of Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act protest, is part of tribal culture. The tribal land belongs to tribal population. No minorities, no refugees can claim the land here, cannot stay here, cannot get the identity, cannot get the citizenship. That is the movement, and for that movement the gamosa was the symbol. Tribal women in Odisha attempt mass suicide over rail track construction. So in Odisha, what happened? There is a railway track construction was even happening in Sukinda, Angol, Dubri railway line on their lands in Odisha's Jajpur, Odisha. The women alleged the track was being constructed without compensating tribals in the area for their land. Police thwarted attempts by 50 tribal women to commit suicide in protest against the construction of the Sukinda, Angol, Dubri railway line. So these are the women. These are the tribal women, nearly 50 tribal women. They attempted to have a community suicide. They attempt to have a community suicide against the railway line construction by acquiring the lands of the tribals without giving proper compensation to them. So this can be an example for land acquisition, displacement, resettlement, rehabilitation and compensation. Recently in Odisha, because of non-appropriation of compensation, the tribal women attempted for community suicide. Several tribal people whose lands had been acquired for the railway line project have alleged that they have not been compensated for their land and have threatened mass suicide if they are not given due compensation and land in other areas. Mass suicide. The total community people want to commit suicide. Why? Because they are not being properly paid their compensation. So this will be an example for land acquisition, resettlement, rehabilitation and compensation. Question of paper 2, Anthropology. Organic turmeric to weed out marijuana in Malkangiri. In Malkangiri of Odisha, the marijuana, the cannabis, the weed, the cultivation of the weed is happening at a large scale. So in order to control that, the district administration came up with an idea that creating mass awareness about organic turmeric cultivation rather than going for marijuana. So recently the Malkangiri district administration, Odisha, has initiated a project to divert the region's tribals from illegal marijuana cultivation by promoting organic turmeric as a profitable cash crop. So in order to shift from marijuana cultivation, illegal marijuana cultivation to organic turmeric cultivation. Why? Because that Malkangiri geography is suitable for cultivation of organic turmeric. Organic turmeric will weed out the marijuana cultivation in remote areas of Swabhiman, Anchal in Malkangiri. Why there is illegal marijuana cultivation is happening? Lack of communication. What is happening in the deeper parts of the district is not aware with respect to the police or legal enforcement agencies. Because of lack of communication, the marijuana cultivation is happening. Poverty, they are struck down into poverty. In order to come out of the poverty, they are thinking cultivation of the marijuana is the only solution. Financed by the drug mafias. Source for easy money. It's a source for easy money. These are the reasons why they are going for marijuana cultivation. This move comes after a survey conducted in 2019 by the Malkangiri district administration. It revealed that almost all the tribal families grow turmeric for their consumption but not for commercial purpose. So they cultivate only for their consumption but not for commercial purpose. But if they go for commercial purpose, they can have a very good income. They can have a very good revenue. The district has suitable climate and geographical conditions, so organic turmeric can become the tool of economic development for poor tribals as well as cash crop alternative of marijuana. It is estimated that each acre of organic turmeric can give up to 70,000 to 80,000 income to the farmers. That means it is going to become a very good a cash making source, for the tribal community in tribal areas. So the government, so this can be an example where where the marijuana cultivation or kallu cultivation, where weed cultivation can be stopped by promoting them into cash crops or horticulture crops or commercial crops. Bruce to permanently settle in Tripura, pact signed. So a Bruce is one of the tribal community who is located in states of northeastern states, mainly Mizoram and Tripura. So the Bruce were been exodus, were been removed from the Mizoram. Now they are living in Tripura. Now there is a quadripartite. Now there is a quadripartite agreement between four bodies, four parties. Government of Mizoram, Government of Tripura, and a NGO and a pressure group of Bruce as well as central government. A quadripartite agreement in New Delhi allowed some 35,000 Bru tribal people who were displaced from Mizoram and are living in Tripura as refugees since 1997 to settle permanently in Tripura. So there was ethnic conflict happened. The ethnic conflict happened between the Mezos versus Brus. When this ethnic conflict happened between the Mezos versus Brus, the Brus were being displaced from their Mizoram. Then they went into Tripura for the sake of livelihood. There in the refugee camps, the Brus are settling today also. Now there is an agreement made between the Brus pressure group, Government of Mizoram, Government of Tripura and the central government for settling of the Brus in Tripura. The center, the state governments of Tripura and Mizoram and representatives of Bru organizations signed the agreement in the presence of Union Home Minister Amit Shah. The solution has evoked mixed reactions, with rights activists fearing it would legitimize the ejection of minority communities by ethnocentric states. So if this happens, then all the states like Nagaland, Naga people will send other tribal communities like Kukis. So similarly, if it is in Arunachal Pradesh, Aptanis tribal community will send the other tribal communities like Singpos. So it will institutionalize that the state belongs to this ethnic community only, and other minority ethnic communities will be made internally displaced people from that state, and they will be becoming refugees to the other states. That will be a chance if the Brus will be compromised to stay in Tripura rather than in Mizoram. Who are the Bru refugees? According to a report, the Brus who are spread across Tripura, Mizoram and parts of southern Assam are said to be the most populous tribe in Tripura. They are also known as Ryangs in Mizoram, as they are essentially ethnically different from the Mezos and have their own distinct language and dialect, and thus form one of the 21 scheduled tribes of Tripura. So these are one of the, the same Brus are called as Ryangs in Mizoram, are called as Brus in Tripura. So this is one of the tribal communities who is having their own culture, their own distinct language. These people are called as Bru. Who came because of the ethnic conflict between the Mezos versus Brus. So next is a month-long Nagoba Jatara concludes in Telangana. What is this Nagoba Jatara? Prelims point of view, culture point of view. A month-long Nagoba Jatara festival has come to an end in Telangana state. Nagoba Jatara is a tribal festival held in Keslapur village, Indravalli Mandal, Adilabad district, Telangana. Thus the festival also known as Keslapur Jatara. Either it might be called as Keslapur Jatara or else it will be called as Nagoba Jatara, which is conducted by Gond tribal community. It is huge religious and cultural event of the Boygutta branch of Mesram clan of the aboriginal Rajgond and Pradhan tribe. So mainly it is a festival of Gond tribal community of a group called as Rajgonds. During the festival, the Mahapuja of serpent god Nagoba means Nagoba god has been facilitated. Gond tribe. Gonds are one of the largest tribal groups in the world. They mostly live in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal and Odisha. So this is the Nagoba festival, how they will be celebrating, culturally how they will be celebrating. Gonds are subdivided into four. Rajgons, Rajgons, Dhruv Gonds and Katlur Gonds. So the Gonds are divided into four. Rajgons, Maria Gonds and Dhruv Gonds as well as Katlur Gonds. It has been notified as scheduled tribe. These communities are notified as scheduled tribes. But there is another tribe called as Pardhan tribe. This you can write as an example in your mains. Pardhans are considered to be the junior branch of Gond tribe and are traditional bards to Gonds. That means who praises the Gonds, who believes themselves as the subsidiary of the Gonds, who believes the Gonds are dominants and they are the submissives, like SC community in general population, and the general upper caste as the upper population. So similarly here, the Pardhan themselves feels as the lower when compared to the Gonds as upper social status. Pardhans are considered to be the junior branch of Gond tribe and are traditional bards, means who sings for the Gonds and recite mythologies, folk tales and songs of their gods and goddesses at various festivals, ceremonies and fairs for which service they are paid in cash or kind. So the Pardhan tribe is a tribal group which worships, which praises, which follows the footprints of Gond tribal community. That means it is a part of Gond tribal community, but it is not divided as a separate part. They have been seen as the subdivision. They have been seen as the inferior to the Gond tribal community. This is Gond tribal community. This is one of the Nagoba Jatra which is facilitated in Telangana state. Genetic analysis reveals modern Africans have some Neanderthals DNA too. Humans migrating back to Africa, extinct relatives' genetic material along for the ride. Africans today possess more Neanderthal ancestry than previously thought. So I want to tell you that in the evolutionary process of man, there is Australopithecines, Homo erectus, Neanderthal, Homo sapiens. So Australopithecines evolved in Africa. Then in Homo erectus, the man migrated to Asia, Europe, as well as stayed in Africa. But in the next stage, the Neanderthal was not present in Africa because of the geographical condition. The Neanderthal went to Europe and he settled in Europe. But the evidences show that in Africa also there are availability of DNAs of Neanderthal, which means that the man who is present in Africa went to Europe and had a crossbreeding with the Neanderthal, and he came back and he stayed in Africa. Hence, the Neanderthal gene is also present in African population. So, Neanderthal man. So, this is my Gmail ID, this is my Quora, this is Telegram channel, everyday free current affairs we are providing, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.